People turned in work that had no work. It was just numbers.
Right.
So how did I say it? Oh yeah, so those things that I marked work. Yeah. Just, and then these guys, redo them and show me what they're. Cool. So you're gonna pick it up. If you haven't picked up on it yet, you're gonna pick up on it very soon. I am big on seeing work.
Yeah.
Because it's the only way I can see how you think, and it's the only way I can give you feedback when you need it. If I just see a number and it's right, okay, where did that come from? If it's wrong, okay, what did you make a mistake on? I can't help you. Cool? So you must show me work. Any other questions about the technicalities of homework, how to interpret what I mean and all that?
Yeah, if we don't, like, if you just wrote something and we're like, we don't know what it means, can we just see what?
Oh, hell yeah. You can't read it, or you don't know
No,
what
I'm just
trying
like,
to say? Okay.
Like
Definitely come see it, yeah. So I try to explain very quickly, but
Yeah.
sometimes I'm a little too quick when I write. Any other questions from, anything you're working on now that you have questions about? Yep. Careful now, it's -2 squared. -2 times -2 is. And real quick on the quiz also, just to remind you guys, most of you guys got pretty good grades. You didn't get 100 though, maybe. If you got below 100, you can make corrections to anything that you lost points on. Normally you can do it on the back and just correct it on the top and the front. Do not erase anything that's original. Just leave all that alone. Just correct anything you lost points on. If you got 100 or above, corrections won't help you. You don't need much help, so you're fine. Just hang on to it. Some of you guys got 1 point off, and then you got an extra bonus point for getting the order of operations right, so just see what went wrong with that one. But you can't get above 100 with corrections. I'll always have bonus questions on the tests, so you always have the possibility of getting over 100 the first go round when you take your test. Any other questions from the quiz or from homework or? Yeah.
When do you want to take in homework?
I'll take it right. So normally, you can always drop homework off when you come into the classroom, or at the end of class, you can give it to me, either way. So anything you turn in today, or have turned in already, I will get back to you on Thursday, because I want you to have it to look over at the weekend, because we have the test. Cool. Yeah. Oh, careful. One thing that went wrong with that, and again, I was telling you that I think I made that one order operations problem a little too long. But one thing that always happens is people focus on this, it's not exactly the same thing. People focus on this division problem and they leave it to the end. So a lot of you guys, and a lot of you guys see the little note, division is not last, right? So what I see a lot of times is people that do that, then they'll do this, then they'll do this, and then they have like, either they'll say the answer is 10, but it's really 1 over 10, right? The two negatives cancel. But do you guys kind of follow the, I mean, this is the, whoever this was said, well, that's -1, leave me alone. That's 3 minus 4, Jeff, that's -1. And that's -3 minus 7 is -10. So what the hell, Jeff, what's wrong? I haven't had anybody too confrontational, but I'm waiting. What did go wrong? What was the problem?
Order of operations.
What's the one thing that I did right up here? Yeah, the only thing I really did right up here was this. Everything after that was not good. Because I definitely do in parentheses first, but then the next thing I'm supposed to do is division. Yeah. You guys see that? So now if you look back at that one order operation problem, again, I didn't count any points off for it, but take a look and see, did you leave the division to last? I think it's very human to do that. We see that symbol and we think that's dividing the thing up into 2. No. If I want, I'd have to have parentheses here to tell me top and bottom. Cool. Because real quick, let me show you this. If I had 7 plus 2 divided by 5 minus 6, how could I write it in a single line?
7 plus 2 divided by 5 minus 6.
Now is that quite right?
No.
What's wrong with that? What did I lose that I don't need up here, but I need it down here because I lost something? Up here I could tell what the top and what the bottom is.
Separation.
Can I do that anymore? What's the only thing being divided on this one? 2 and 5. But I'm supposed to divide this whole thing by this whole thing. There you go. So that's what trips us up when we have a single line written and we're used to thinking like this. We make mistakes like this, right? We think that's like a big division bar. But if I don't put the parentheses in, no it isn't. I'm supposed to just do 2 divided by 5 then. But I want to do this whole thing divided by that whole thing. Okay. Cool, cool, cool. So any other questions from quiz or homework or anything? How's homework going? Is it going okay?
I'm still on section 2.2.
That's not bad. That's decent. Right? You have until what day to be totally done with up as
No, they got a tentative time that it says to September 4th, so I'm.
well, be careful now.
September 11th.
September 11th, right?
It says 4th.
Those dates next to there are the days that I think I'll be talking about those issues, right? The days on there are the days that I think I'll be talking about. When is homework always definitely due by at the latest? The day of the test. Cool. And the test is next Tuesday. So anything you haven't turned in by today, if I were you, I might just hang on to it till the day of the test. Won't really do me too much good to turn it on Thursday. Right, is everybody with me? But desperately, I appreciate a lot of you guys are turning in a lot of homework, which is really cool. And I always get that back to you before the day of the test. Yeah.
So in this equation right here, would you finish it out? I mean.
All right. So what would you do here? What would be first?
Would you divide, right? 14.
Careful now.
Divide.
So looking at this, what
Nine.
comes first? Yeah.
9.
In the parentheses first.
Yeah.
So this parentheses is 9, and this parentheses is
1.
Minus 1.
negative 1.
Minus 1. Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
And then 9 divided by negative 1 is negative 9.
Negative.
You could write it like this if you want to. And all that does is make that 9 negative. Cool. Yes, sir.
On 53, I just wanted to make sure, since the minus symbol is right, like it's 72 divided by 8, but the minus symbol is like right
Which
on
section?
the divided line. 2.4.
2-4. Have to go and buy another book. The person that I loaned it to is actually no longer here. Okay. So 72 over 8, though, with the negative? Like this?
Yeah, so I was just making sure that means both of them.
Here's a really cool way to do this. This is going to come in handy later. Whenever I have a negative like sitting outside something, it's not being affected by this, so I just cover it for a second. So what is 72 divided by 8? 9. And then you just put negative 1. Cool. That happens a lot. It happened with that one problem. Remember last time we had this problem? And you guys see I gave you that group work back? Remember that problem from last time? Maybe. It's been a while, I know, man. A lot probably happened this weekend. You can do the same thing. Look, that negative is outside of everything, right? It's not being squared. So what is 5 squared? And then you put a negative on it. So this is actually, a lot of you guys see what I did on your homework. I said this, and then 5 squared is 5 times 5. There's only one negative, so at the end it's going to stay negative. Cool. So that same idea, just cover, do it, put it on. Do it, put it on. Yes.
Why is there only one negative?
How would I make there be 2? Why is there 2 5s?
Because it's to the second power.
I love it. So if I have this, 4 times 3 squared. What is there 2 of?
3s.
Why are there not 2 4s?
Because it's right next to the 3.
I like it. So do you see how that's exactly the same as that?
No.
Here's a 4, there's only one of them.
Right.
Here's a negative, there's only one of them.
Okay.
Cool.
I got you.
So the coefficients, that exponent can only go so far. So how do I square the negative also? I got to put it in parentheses. The parentheses help the exponents become a little stronger. They're like, normally the dude can't get all the way over there. But if I rewrote this as this instead, now what do I have 2 of?
The 4
4s and 3s. So those parentheses kind of like, they're also called grouping symbols. They group stuff together so that the whole thing could be affected. This is one of the most evil problems in math. You see this kind of thing all the time. Because we beat it in your heads when you square something, it comes out positive. And then students say, what the hell, man? How is this negative then? Because I'm not squaring it. I'm squaring 5, which is positive 25. So yeah, the rule is the same. It just has a negative sign in the front. Right? So when I square something, it is positive, but there's a negative sign in the front, so I can't escape that. Whereas here, what do I get? Yeah, let's square this, so I have 2 of these. Negative 5 times negative 5. The negatives kill each other. Cool. I like it. That is one of the most evil things. Don't totally freak out if you make that mistake sometimes, because my Math 281 students make that mistake sometimes. It's just easy for the brain to make that mistake. But don't make the mistake all the time. That's bad. Is there anything else from the homework?
Back to that topic, if it's, say, a problem inside, it's by square, and it comes to negative, would that still correspond to the same problem?
I got you. So like if you had, in the parentheses, you have a little problem, right? Like, that? All right. So order operations will always save your ass. Exactly. So always double check. So what the mistake I always get here, and can you guys see where this comes from, is I always get something like 16 minus 49, or 16 plus 49, or I sometimes just get 4 minus 49. So the mistake these two people made, yeah, somehow they squared each of those separately, but I can't do that. I can't distribute exponents across minus. What are exponents based on? What operation are exponents based on? What is 5 squared? Yeah, it's based on multiplication. It's based because 5 squared is 5 times 5. So exponents will never play well with subtraction because it's not based on subtraction. With me? So what do you do then is order operations save your ass. It says order operations says do the inside first. Yeah, what's 4 minus 7? Negative 3. And I still have to square. So negative 3 times negative 3, positive 9. I like it. Sweet. Really careful. Exponents cannot come before parentheses. Where that's going to come in. Some of you guys might remember this. Do you remember what you had to do here?
So what is it? There ain't no parenthesis there. It's just that the number.
I'll show you. Do you guys, anybody ever had to do this? This is well in our future for right now. But some of you guys might have come from somewhere where you've seen this kind of thing before. Can you do in here first? What is x plus 3?
You got the value. The x got to mean something, right?
Well, nobody told me what it means. So what could it be? Anything. So you can't just say, well, I think x is 2. That'll make that a lot easier. But some of you guys might remember that the funky thing you got to do is called FOIL, and that's way in our future. But that's foiling is a way around order of operations when I can't do inside here first. How are we doing so far? What do you think? That's a little ahead of us, so don't freak out if you're not sure what the hell to do with that, because you're not going to see that for a while. All I want you to realize right now is parentheses first saves you. Now your question was, what if it was instead this?
Right.
Now how powerful is that exponent? Not very. It can only reach to the thing it's on. This square was on this whole number. That's why it squared the negative 3. Where's this square there? So what operation do I do first here? 7 squared, exactly. Right? Why did I do subtraction first here? Because it was inside parentheses. Good. So here I do 4 minus 49. Because 7 times 7. How are we doing there? And then what's 4 minus 49? Yeah, because don't let this trip us up. That's positive, that's negative. When they're different signs, you subtract. 49 minus 4. 45, but the bigger one is negative. So negative 45. Okay. So let me show you guys a couple things I noticed in the homework. One of them had to do with multiplying, just straight up multiplying two numbers. And I saw enough of this mistake to make me want to do this. What's 3 times 4? 12. Well, what's 30 times 4? 120. So of course, if I have like, let's say 31 times 43. Okay. Here's a mistake I've seen a couple times already. They'll do this, they'll 1 times 3, 3 times 3, 4 times 1, 4 times 3. Now what mistake did I make? Exactly, right? Because I'm not doing 3 times 43. Do you guys see how we break this down? We actually say 31, well that's, a part of that is 1. So 143, 30, and then there's part of it is 30. You guys with me? So like this guy, 3 times 31 is 93. But then what's the other piece? It's not 4, it's 40, isn't it? And 4 times 31 is 124, but it's 40. It's in the tens place. So the way you're supposed to do this problem, I think some of you guys told me, whenever you move to the next number over, you got to put a 0 there, or just leave it blank. I noticed some of you guys just leave it blank. And then you start doing this guy. Cool. How are we doing there? Is that all right? Then you just put these together? Cool, man. Now what about with division? The mistake I'm seeing with division is like, let's make this okay. So there's a couple mistakes I'm seeing with division. 41 goes into 42 once. Now, one mistake I'm seeing is somebody putting the number there, and that's going to throw them off later. Where should that 1 go? Yeah, because you actually did it. 41 doesn't go into 4 once. 41 goes into 42 once. So I've seen a few people do that, and it throws them off later. Of course, now you put that down there, you subtract, and then bring down the 3. Now, does 41 go into 13? So then you bring down the 5. The mistake I've seen next is they don't put the 0 there. Because 41 goes into 13 0 times. So you've got to put that 0 there. All right, good. So I know some of you guys don't make the mistake. I love it. Continue not making this mistake. But I saw this enough to make me a little worried. And then you go 41 into 135. Yeah. 3 times 1, 3 times 4. Now here, you don't have to keep going. I know a few of you guys have, and that's cool. That's fine with me as long as you do it correctly. But right there, right now, you can just stop and say,
12.
Yeah, remainder 12. Or what's even a better way to say this, 103 and
12. You can't go 12 over 41.
Exactly. Right? Exactly, I know. We're not quite there yet, but if you want to do that now, I love it. If you don't want to do that, you can do one of these two things. This is actually the best way to write it, because this decimal will never end. So I don't want to go on forever for the rest of my life. Let me just write that. That's the cool thing about fractions. They write never-ending decimals very quickly. Bam.
And
done.
then reduce it if you can.
Reduce it if you can. Cool. Oh, wait. Hold on. Right there, yeah. Right in that stack. Cool. All right. So any other specific questions before we get into doing some work yet?
Again, on the exercise in the parentheses, how are we gonna tell what's a negative without the parentheses? Because it's gonna, for me, it's gonna lead into a
speaking metaphorically, a zigzag road.
Zigzag road.
Yeah, I speak metaphorically. Like every time I think I would go into a question like that I don't know, it's gonna make me think, is that a -7 or a regular 7 take away 4?
Oh, I see. All right. And this is kind of it's almost bad when we have a lot of different ways to do something in math, because then we start to mix them all together, or we forget why they all make sense. I could look at this as +4 and +7, and I'm taking the difference. You with me? Or I could look at this as a +4 and a -7, and I'm combining them. Because remember, how can you rewrite a minus? You can make that a plus. How can I rewrite this 4 plus -7? That's more like what I'm saying there. That's normally the way that I end up looking at it myself, because it makes it easier to tell what the answer is going to be. If I know that they're different signs, I know I subtract. 7 minus 4 is 3. And then I put the sign of the bigger one on. 7's bigger and it's negative, so I put a minus sign on it. And I never want you guys just to accept that. I mean, think about it. If I was, if I had $4, I always got to go back to money, because that's what makes the most sense to us. $4, and I owe somebody 7. I'm still how much in the hole? I'm still 3 in the hole. That's why it comes out negative. It's that simple, right?
Yeah,
if there's excess negative, I'm going to still be in debt at the end. Cool. Which some of you guys, I not too long ago finally finished paying off my student loans, so that felt really nice.
That was a big relief.
Yeah, 15 years worth of paying. Oh yeah. Jesus, what?
At what interest rate?
Well, the interest rate is probably the best it could be, but when you have $30,000 in loans to make it through university, then yeah, no jobs. Yay. Is that cool? Does that help any? So it's really hard to really go into a problem knowing how it's going to come out. But you know, if I have 5 minus 2 squared, which one of those numbers is bigger? 5. And it's positive, so it's going to come out positive in the end.
Yes.
Now, if I have something like this, what's going to happen in here? And I saw a little too much of this, and again, I tried to directly address this, but it's really easy to forget this. 2 negatives only make a positive when you're doing what with them? Multiplying. And the way to keep this straight, if I have $11 in debt to one guy and $7 to another guy, ain't no way I'm 18 ahead. I'm 18 behind.
Okay, well, where the 2 come in?
Oh, well then you have to square, right? So this would be 3 squared is 9. And then it'll be 18 squared. Whatever the hell that is.
So you write that all the way out.
324.
You write it all the way out.
Oh yeah, so this would be
if we had that problem.
negative 18 times negative 18.
Yeah.
Cool. And then you can do that. 18, 18. What's going to happen with the negatives?
They turn positive.
They're going to cancel each other out.
Yeah.
Good. Because that's now I'm multiplying, so now the 2 negatives kill each other. Okay, maybe. So I understand. I totally understand why students very often feel like, you just said the opposite thing the other day. Why does math keep changing? What I always tell my students is, if you ever think the rules of math are changing, come see me immediately, because they cannot. They cannot change. We can just learn more stuff, but the basic rules, I don't care if you're math 947, you still 2 negatives when you're adding make still come out negative. Negative 11 minus 7, it's got to be negative 18. It can't suddenly change.
Yeah, just looking at it, it gets me confused. Students.
I got you.
As well.
But that's why you slow down, you analyze the problem. They're both negative. It's going to have to stay negative at the end. Putting that together. Don't freak out.
Okay, let me try it out.
Good thing.
Let me just.
Yeah.
Could you write that out, like on the side, like 2 negative equal whatever with adding and then multiplying? You know, like.
So when you multiply 2 negatives, makes it a positive, right? Is that cool? Don't freak out, sorry. Multiplying two negatives, make it positive. Now, I don't really like getting into, there's already enough to kind of memorize for the rules. What saves you when you're subtracting or something is remembering that when you're putting two sign numbers together, if they're the same sign, you add them and put the sign back on. If they're different signs, you subtract and put the sign of the bigger one on. That actually takes care of, what do you do here then? You don't just make it positive. They're the same sign, so you add. What's 4 plus 7? 11. And they're both negative, so you put the negative back on. So when you're combining numbers, combining them, not multiplying, when you're combining them, subtracting or adding, if they're the same sign, you add them, put the sign back on. If they're different signs, you subtract them and put the sign of the bigger one, because he's kind of the one that dominates, right? It's when you multiply that it gets free. Because again, when you multiply, this is like the opposite of 2 times the opposite of 3. Well, the two opposites cancel each other out. So it comes out to be positive 6. Cool. And it has to be, because negative 2 times negative 3 cannot be the same thing as negative 2 times 3. They can't be the same thing, can they? And what is negative 2 times 3? That's negative 6, yeah. Okay. So those can't be the same thing. So there's got to be something different. And that's why two negatives there have to make a positive. Yeah.
Minus 4, not minus 7 to equal minus 11.
Yeah, sorry. I said it and then I never put it down. So they're both negative, so you got to put the negative sign down. Okay. So how do you guys feel about that so far? I mean, I totally understand where you come from when it sounds like we're saying two different things, or two things that kind of oppose each other. But one's when I multiply and one's when I add. Totally different operations, so there's no reason they should be the same. Cool. So here, what's this here? Maybe. I say maybe just so I don't give it away to anybody else, but which one's bigger here?
Negative.
The 11, and it's negative. So I know the answer is going to come out negative. I know that. Right? They're different signs, so I subtract. 11 minus 8 is? That's my little side work. And then the bigger one is negative, so I put the negative sign on there. Another way to look at it, if I am 11 feet down and I climb 8 feet up, am I out of the hole yet?
No.
I'm still 3 feet down in the hole. So there's all kinds of little physical, visual things you can think of when you're doing these problems. I used to always teach that whole thing because there was that movie Stand and Deliver, where you had -1 plus 1. If you had a 1 foot hole and you add 1 foot of sand into it, doesn't that make it 0? Doesn't that kind of like fill it in? So the teacher's like, what's -1 plus 1? Fill in the hole. Fill in the hole. So this, does that fill the hole in? If I have an 11-foot hole and I put 8 feet of sand in there?
No.
No, it's still a 3 foot deep hole. I haven't filled it in yet. Okay, maybe. And that's, of course, where this really comes in. If I only go 8 steps up, I haven't made it back to 0 yet. I've only made it up to -3. Which is what it feels like when you're paying your debts off. I paid a lot, but I'm not there yet. What about this guy?
Negative 30. Negative 30.
So are they the same sign or are they different signs?
Same sign.
Same sign. So when they're the same sign, you add. 21 plus 9 is? Is 30, and then you put the negative sign on there, 11. $21 in debt. Some other dude wants $9 from me. Shit, I owe people $30 altogether. Okay. So I desperately want you guys to feel free to ask anything you want to about this math, because it makes sense. It's just that you have to get into it and get it in your own head. It definitely does make sense. Trust in them. Even if it doesn't make sense to you yet, it does make sense. Okay. So what I want us to do, I think all of you guys have this blue book by now. If you don't, find somebody near you who does. Let me get you started doing a few review problems before we try to finish out chapter 2. Page 25. That's good for right now. Those. I'll be right back. I'm gonna go grab those practice tests. Yeah, we'll do that one. Oh. This, no, we're gonna go over these, so they don't have to be beautiful. You could, because since it's only addition, you can add any order you want to. To be completely by the book, you would go ahead and do -1 + 5. So you don't have to do anything first. Addition, since it's all addition, you can do anything you want to. Yeah, sure. Oh, sure.
I'll roll that now. Negative in front of the 2 4.
Yeah.
Exactly. So it should be plus 3. Because if it was -7 plus this, it would be -10. So -7 minus -3 can't be